We can also work our in-house City of Wooddale computer system from in the squad. So if I'm out there and forgot to send a note to the chief, I can do that from out there. The automatic vehicle locating system and the remote video monitoring going on. Does anyone have questions about these things?
You said this would help or make us compatible with Fender Track?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
It's amazing how all the pieces are fitting together, and it all takes time. The technology, bits and pieces of fitting it together are slower than I'd like it to be, but you can hardly keep up with it in many ways.
Because there's not that many other police departments in the county that have Fender Track or have the capability getting in on it.
The big thing that we're doing is we're piggybacking on quite a bit that's going on in Wheaton. We're using a lot of money that's coming from the ETSB board going to the sheriff's department, and then piggybacking on the technology that they're capitalizing. Pretty much on, and not to go into Craig's presentation, but with regards to the actual jail files that are maintained, that still will be, there'll still be a barrier from that to the rest of this. However, we can and are getting pictures from DuPage from their mug system on ours currently.
I think I retired too soon.
Do we have the ability to put the automatic vehicle locators on all city vehicles that are in the fleet, or just, do they have to be integrated with the computers?
They have to be integrated with computers.
So if we want to put one in Roger's car, I'll pick on him because he's not here, and we want to know where Roger goes all day.
Actually,
He's got to have the whole computer system in his car in order to have the vehicle locator?
This particular system is adapted towards police vehicles with computers. Craig is going to fill you in on a lot more of the details on that, so,
Yes, I am.
okay.
Hello, I promise this is the last PowerPoint you're going to see tonight from us. My name is Craig Celia. My responsibility lies within the communications unit of the police department. Let me just go over this with you. Highlights of AVL, which is automatic vehicle location. I was obtained in Wooddale about 10 months ago. We currently have these in all 10 of our police vehicles. The units themselves are used with a mapping program that we have in our police department, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Purpose of this is to locate the police vehicles anywhere within the city and also within the county. So it's a dual purpose thing, but it's mainly so we can locate our police vehicles within the city. First priority of this program, it's not necessarily a big brother approach, but it's officer safety. And that's kind of what we strive for in the communications unit. That really is our first priority. We utilize this technology with GPS, Global Positioning System satellites. Majority of the costs with these actually lie with the county. We have a minimal installation cost per vehicle. It's about $100 to $150. I can't remember which, but for each police vehicle to have this installed in comes out of the police department budget. The equipment and the mapping program is supplied by the county. AVL updates on our on our screens in our communications unit every 15 seconds. It's a responsibility of each telecommunicator working that they monitor the mapping program, which shows the locations of the police vehicles 24/7. This is an average. This is what the telecommunicator looks at and stares at for 8 hours a day. The bottom two screens here show our CAD system, our computer-aided dispatch system. The top left-hand corner is the mapping program that I'm going to be showing you, and this is just a data program. We have other applications that we use with this system, but most of them are minimized within this network here. This is the mapping program. With this demonstration, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a unit here at the police department. He's Unit 418. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a series of slides, and every 15 seconds I'm going to show you where he's at, if you can keep an eye on that unit. So 15 seconds later, he's moving northbound on Wooddale Road at School Street. The mapping program doesn't show the continuous unit moving. It only shows them in segments, if you will. Shows them that he's still moving northbound on Wooddale 30 seconds later. Now he's showing at Wooddale and Sievert. I'm sorry, this is a 1 minute. He's now at Thorndale. And this is really what we see every 15 seconds.
Now I'm glad
About
I-
2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Now I'm glad I retired.
Yeah. About 2 minutes into it, he's traveling southbound on Edgewood from here. And for this purpose, the final destination is at Central and Haynes. Conclusion of this system. Main objective again is officer safety. That's what we really strive to do, is keep our officers safe out on the street. We're really the liaison between the citizens and the police vehicles, the police officers, and this is what our job is. Communications unit, we really must be able to make contact with the units on the street at all times, whether it be by radio, mobile data terminal, the messaging, or we need to know where they are, where they are. It's a valuable tool to us because what it does is it tells the telecommunicator where they are. So if we get a call that's of a priority, of a high priority, instead of taking what the CAD recommendation is, the computer-aided dispatch system, we can look at this mapping program and it'll tell us where the closest car is in relation to the call. And that's really what the human factor involved in this is. Any questions or comments? Yes, Alderman. Sure. I would also invite any one of you to come down to our communications unit. If you like a live demonstration, we'd be happy to do that. We really are proud of our unit.
In closing, there's an old axiom in aviation that says that if you don't have SA, which is situational awareness, you're never going to know where you're at. This optimizes situational awareness for the telecommunicator so that they can get the best person to the job in the quickest manner. With that concludes our presentations for this evening. Once again, I thank you. We grouped together quite a bit of information in 47 minutes, but I felt that it was very valuable for you to know that we are trying to take every advantage of any funding that we can get from any other source to optimize our service for the citizens.
Thank you, Chief, but I'm looking at item number 8, report and recommendation on disposal of surplus equipment. Were you going to address that?
Yes, before you have a sample ordinance that we are suggesting that be approved and passed along to the City Council for further consideration. This would be for the selling of 5 of our surplus computers to the fire district, and this money, once raised, would be returned back to the narcotics forfeiture account because that's where it came from. And we are suggesting that this be staff's recommendation is for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, it looks like we'll go with that, Chief. I do need to say, though, that I want to thank you and your crew for doing such a wonderful job, especially with the getting money so that we don't have to find it to pay for all of this stuff.
Thank you,
And-
Alderman. I thought that it was essential that I get some of our other command staff members before you so that you're just not seeing my mug every week.
Okay.
I also want to thank you for having the most modern equipment around in each car.
I would ask you.
Okay, that's, all right, Alderman Chalky.
Yeah, just our congratulations on solving the armed robbery and kidnapping case the other day. It's quite impressive, really.
Well, I can only say that in my 30 years of law enforcement here in Wooddale, this is the first time we had a kidnapping case. It started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was successfully concluded the following day, less than 24 hours later. And once again, it was an exemplary, it was a good example of how the detective division and the patrol division work together to bring it to a quick conclusion. Thank you, Alderman.
Okay, item 9 is items for future meetings. We're showing a report only on the administrator and processing fee for impounded vehicles Report and recommendation for Senior Citizens Council. They want some money. Report and recommendation for the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission. Soliciting and canvassers ordinance, the choice program for Wooddale School District 7, and the status of CALIA certification for Communications Center, and the intergovernmental agreement with the Wooddale Park District on financial reimbursement for services rendered. We'll see those in the future. Does anyone else have anything? I didn't think so. We got enough here. With that, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Call the Public Works meeting for July 13, 2006 to order. Let the record reflect the same members are present. Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th, 2006. Is there a second? On the question, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Without objection, I'm going to move because we have a resident here that would like to speak to item number 8. It's a report and recommendation of the dial-a-ride services. This was tabled from a previous meeting. The dial-a-ride service, we got information regarding the expenses and the revenues that it was generating. One of the issues that came up was the transportation of a Wooddale resident, a minor who has special needs, and the city for quite some time had been transporting the individual to and from school, and so we kind of were up with a dilemma on to whether or not to continue that service. IRMA was requested to put their opinion in it. IRMA wanted the city to back off. They were worried about liability. City manager Frank Williams has provided us an updated memo, which I'll have you briefly just explain what your proposal is, then I'll have the residents speak.
We will be receiving a new van from Pace, and we could continue to provide wheelchair service with the older van that has a wheelchair lift. We also are requesting a letter of indemnification releasing the city of Wooddale from any lawsuits or injuries that result from the transportation of this particular person to school. The current van that we have with the lift, that's the older van, that we've recently completed the payments. We had leased it for 5 years and now we own it. Is limited to 3.5 seats, and because the lift requires so much room. The new van will provide seating for 7 and increase the ability of the city to provide dial-a-ride service. This is a very popular program, and I've received several calls and in hopes that we continue it. And again, if we get the ridership on it, we could expand it, to meet the needs. Right now, we wanted to adjust the hours from 9 to 3, which basically is in line with the township. In the event we did receive more requests, we could, elongate those hours. The reason why we want to compress those hours is because there's too much downtime in between rides. We don't know how it's going to go when we're going to have 7 seats. We may get more ridership. We're also recommending an increase in fees because of operating costs, gasoline costs. And basically, that would be $3 for seniors and disabled riders and $4 for others. And that's staff's recommendation right now.
With that, Karen Birdie had requested to speak, and as chairman, I'm going to allow her that opportunity. Ms. Birdie, if you want to take the microphone at the podium.
Hello, my name is Karen Birdie. I live at 341 Itasca Street. I was born and raised in the city and didn't have to worry about transportation problems. Moved to Wooddale for an affordable home and an accessible home. And my daughter didn't attend school in the city because of transportation reasons, and I won't go into that. But she liked going to school here and then wanted to go full-time, but then there was the transportation issue and the safety of what Ladlaw was providing. And at that time, I just had, my mom was using the service. She was a senior and also lived with us. She passed away. And my mom had said, why doesn't she use that? So I mentioned it to the school, and they called the city of Wooddale, and they agreed. So it's been 4.5 years, including the summer. And I just want to say that it provides her freedom, independence. She's 15 and a half years old, and growing up and not having to rely on mom and dad, you know, to drive her everywhere. Friends are going places, and she can't go. Most people don't have cars that are accessible. So her way of getting a ride anywhere would be the Dial-A-Ride or our van, which I'm not opposed to letting anybody use my van, but people are a little afraid because it's big. I also want to comment on getting a second van. You were saying that there was downtime. Why would you get a second van if there was downtime and just leave it the way it is? I don't understand that.
The idea behind the second van is that, first of all, it's from Pace, so there's no cost to the city of Wooddale. They'll allow us to retain the old van, but the new van will have more seating available so that it can possibly be more efficient. When we be more efficient, it'll be able to take more riders to and from their locations at one time, and that's the only way this can survive, this program, for a community of our size, is to be efficient. And so we're trying to make it efficient, but we're also very, at least I think most of us are recognizing your situation, and I agree initially with staff's thoughts that, you know, the school district has the burden to take your daughter to and from school, and to take any children to and from school, with or without special needs. That being said, it touched me when you said that we've been doing it for 3.5 or 4 years, and that we're almost to that end. My position is, when I ask city managers to find a way that we can still complete that task from here on out, because the reality is, Irma, if it was up to Irma, who is our insurance carrier, they don't want cities involved in any bus programs. They say stick to fixing roads, water mains, police protection. Don't get into the transportation business. But the reality is, if Miss Birdie's daughter, who has special needs, if we didn't drive her to and from school, and she got home at school at 3:30, or if it was during the summer, and she wanted to go back and forth to Target 4 times during the day, we'd be required to pick her up and take her back and forth. So the number of rides she's going to be doing, you know, it's to and from school. We've been doing it for 4 years. I don't think there's that much additional exposure, and I think the indemnification agreement is a reasonable request for the city to make. And I think that if the hours can work for this child, we can continue this and just, in my opinion, finish something we've started. Whether or not we want to continue it after that point in the future, but at least this gives us the opportunity to finish something that we've been doing for 4 years.
Well, I'd like to mention that it's not going to be finished because I'm hoping that she's going to graduate and get a job and need transportation in the future. I mean, that's,
Absolutely. I met with the transportation to and from school,
yeah,
you know.
okay. But, you know, for other reasons too, it's just giving her the freedom to go and become an adult. And that's what we're striving to teach her, is to become independent. And not only for my daughter, I think seniors who have, you know, walkers and other people in wheelchairs. How could you have one van service that you're saying the services is you're giving a discount for seniors and persons who are disabled, but the disabled can't use it?
We're
Because
still
you're
gonna,
not going to have an accessible.
no, we're still going to have the other van that's handicap
And
accessible.
if that breaks down, and that's going to be gone, and
You know, I think that's something we would
address that.
address at that point in the future. Alderman Ptolemy?
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say that I think it's something that, you know, first off, I mean, and don't misunderstand me, okay, when I say this, but the bus service was originally, or this type of service was originally set up to try and help the residents, okay, get from point A to point B. We have taken, we have taken a loss every year since we started this program, and in terms of the amount of money it costs the city. As the city manager stated earlier, What we're trying to do now is to make it more efficient. I mean, if the van, you know, the wheelchair accessible van breaks down, I mean, it probably won't be replaced, okay? That's not, you know, I mean, I won't say it for sure, but it probably won't. I mean, the problem comes in, should the city even be in? And I mean, that's an issue that we're gonna end up having to debate at some point or another anyway. Should the city even be in the service of providing a bus service of any type? Because it is a losing proposition. I mean, we had a PACE bus, literally a PACE bus, that ran in this community and wasn't supported. PACE pulled the plug because they were losing money on it. The bus service doesn't run, and all it ran was from the train commuter lot through Wooddale Road up into the industrial area, and it doesn't run anymore because they couldn't afford to run it. And I think with the costs and everything that we're faced with, and the rising cost of gas and all, it's something that we as a council are going to have to address. I mean, you know, I understand, believe me, I do understand. And as long as the service is out there, if your daughter can use it, use it. But all I'm telling you is that as far as a thing for the future, I don't know if I would bet the ranch on it, okay? Because it is a possibility that in the future, the city might have to pull the plug on the whole service, okay? Because they just can't afford to operate it anymore.
Well, can I comment on that?
Sure.
If that is the case, could you involve the city residents who take Dial-A-Ride? A woman called me saying that she was a senior, she doesn't know what she's gonna do if they take away the services, and how come, you know, other riders didn't know about this?
Oh, no, I'm sure.
And how could I get the word out?
I am sure we try we've had numerous meetings, okay, in the past with discussions on the pay service. We show it on our website, you know, we put it in the newsletters that go out to everybody in the community, so people are aware of it. People are aware
We
of it.
told our bus driver to start the campaign of use it or lose it,
Right.
in hope that they would recognize that that bus driver's job potentially was going to be and to spread the word to the riders that if the ridership didn't increase, that it's always potentially open for elimination. And there has been good response and has increased. We're just trying to continue to make it more efficient so we can continue to do it for all the residents of Wooddale.
When I asked Alderman Wesley if I can, you know, get a petition going or do some kind of pamphlet and leave it in the Dial-A-Ride, he said, no, I couldn't do that.
My recommendation would be to talk with the city manager, and it's his discretion as to, you know, whether or not, you know, you could do that. Would be dependent on what the content of, my personal thing would be, it would depend on what the content of the document is, you know, that you want to put out there. But as far as getting people involved, seriously, we have tried, okay, and we do. We put it in the newsletter, it's on the website, and we just, in general, we try to make people aware of it because we do want it to be successful. But I will tell you truthfully that in operating this type of a service, okay, you'll never be, I mean, it never will be financially, you know, solvent, is that the right word I'm looking for? It just not. I mean, you have to have so much ridership that it's actually paying for all the costs involved. And there's a lot of costs involved in operating it. And as far as if and when it comes to that point of eliminating it, it probably would be discussed during our budget process, which is open to all the public at any time. And, you know, I'm sure if we were going to be discussing it, we could do something, you know, with the riders to let the ridership know.
Mayor Johnson?
As a citizen, you always have the right to do a petition. You can present it at any council meeting, the first or third Thursday. You might have misunderstood what Alderman Wesley was saying. Although we talk about that this is not a cost-effective program, I don't think anybody has plans on cutting it out. There's no active discussion to terminate the program that I'm aware of. So it's probably not necessary, but you definitely have the right to do that.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Birdie, the only question I have for you is the, because my personal opinion is I want to finish at least on the education part. I want to get the school involved. I think we should be pulling superintendent over to make sure, to see what dollars is the school getting for transportation of your daughter, and what dollars are they not passing on to us, because right now, the number is 0. So if they can help us defray some of the cost, we should.
The school is paying for her transportation. They
Right,
pay.
but it's my understanding that the none of the dollars the school gets from the state for transportation of your daughter, I thought the range was, $30,000 for that.
Not for each, I don't think for each student. I did ask how much would it cost if she were to take, if this dial ride doesn't pull through, they have to figure out a transportation mode. And I did ask, and they said they could not give me that information.
So but that's something that our staff's going to go back with the staff from Fenton High School, but there should be something that we worked out. So I'm assuming the school can be flexible enough with your daughter that if the hours were from 9 to 3, that would be sufficient to get her to and from school.
She actually leaves home 8:45 and gets home 3:15.
Okay.
And I mean, I have no problem. I just want to get her to school safely.
Right.
And I would like to know, I mean, she's going tomorrow to Jewel, and, she gave up sleeping in because there was no other ride available except an early morning ride. So it's just that feeling of not going with mom and dad and a teenager. And I'd like to continue to give her that
Right. Well,
freedom.
the positive is right now we're going to be able to do that. What the future lies, it's not up for discussion tonight. That's in the future. But right now, we are going to be able to, if this passes, to continue the dial ride program, operation hours 9 to 3, increasing the fees for $3 for seniors and disabled riders, and $4 for all others. So,
If the school were to turn around and say whatever, they would give, compensate the city of Wooddale more money, could they do the earlier hour? A little earlier, a little later?
that's something we can certainly talk to school district about, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Johnson.
Just to clarify, when we do say 9 to 3, we are continuing the service for this particular resident, even if it's 8:45 to 3:15 or whatever is necessary?
Mr. Manager?
We were going to make an exception in this particular case because we have been making an exception. I didn't even realize that even though the posted hours were 9 to whatever, that we were making a pickup before that. So we'll continue it on as long as we have equipment to do so. But that equipment will also be available for any resident in a wheelchair. So that if, having one van that is already paid for and then having a second van will increase the ability for us to operate the service.
Alderman Tolmay?
If we're going to continue it, we do need the letter of indemnification.
Correct. I'm assuming, Ms. Birdie, you wouldn't have an objection to indemnification, which is basically absolving the city for liability for negligence in the event an accident occurred. You don't need to answer it now, but that's one of the requirements the city's going to make on a basis for this. Probably lots of those guys that will review it then. All right, so with that being said, I make a motion to concur with the staff memo of July 5th, 2006, to have the increase for the fees for seniors and disabled to $3 and $4 for all the riders, and to change the hours of operation from 9 o'clock to 3 p.m. Is there a second? Second. On the question, Alderman Winger.
Can we separate that motion to take out the increase and have two separate motions?
Sure. So the first motion would be for the increase of $3 for senior and disabled and $4 for other riders. The seconder agree that's the first motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
One opposition. Motion passes. Next is the motion to change the hours of operation from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. with the exception of continuing the service that we've been providing. On the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item is we're going to go back up to item number 4. It's the report and recommendation for the Georgetown concrete repairs. Back in 1994, the city made a commitment to Georgetown West Association to pay for 25% of the association's cost for paying for concrete work. I think the idea originally started with helping them with sidewalks, and the aggressive property manager of Georgetown West said, well, it should apply to all concrete work that's done. It's capped at $1,000 per year. My question is, for the request for 2006, what is that for, sidewalks or other?
They are requesting, well, and that's part of our recommendation, is that we would only reimburse up to $1,000 for those items that I listed there, which are damaged concrete areas that meet the city's requirements. In other words, if it's just an old-looking square, but there's nothing wrong with it, it wouldn't be subject to reimbursement. Damaged concrete areas that are utilized by city staff to access the site, we drive our vehicles on some of their sidewalks. Those would certainly be eligible. A service walk going up to somebody's front door would not be eligible.
Correct.
We don't do that. And then thirdly, that the association do essentially the administrative aspects of it, and then provide us all the documentation. So we don't have to do any administrative aspects.
So we're basically looking to memorialize what the agreement is before being informal, telling Georgetown Association, this is the new requirements. It's still going to be capped at $1,000, which is still subject to funding availability on a year-to-year basis.
Correct.
As all items are. Any questions on this? Alderman Ptolemy?
I think,
Sorry.
I think one of the things, Gary, you said the damaged concrete areas meet the city's requirement for replacement. Isn't that gonna require that we review what they're going to replace prior to them actually replacing it? Shouldn't there be something stipulated in there for that?
Yes, yeah, we would need to look, and with $1,000 maximum, it's not gonna take them a lot of man-hours to go out there and look to come up
Okay.
with $1,000 worth of concrete.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they need to know up front. We wanna see it before you
We
fix it.
wanna see it,
We
correct.
wanna see it, okay.
With that, make a motion to concur with the staff memorandum of July 5th, 2006 for putting in the requirements for reimbursement to the Georgetown West Improvement Association for concrete replacement. Items 1, 2, and 3 is providing a memo in an amount not to exceed $1,000 per year, subject to funding availability. Is there a second? On the question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is item number 5. It's the report and recommendation of the Public Utility Locate Service Proposal. Currently, Gary, if my understanding of the memo is that city staff does some of the work right now with respect to locating of cities of the public utilities.
Yes, we locate water mains, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, and probably 50% of the time we do streetlights as well. The other 50% of the streetlights are located by our contractor.
And so currently, when Julie contacts us, we go out and do that.
Yes, we expend our man-hours to go out and do that, correct?
And there's no fee for the people who complete that, who request that work. There's
We
no
receive-
charge. I mean, we pay the, obviously,
We
we're paying
pay
our
their,
employee,
yeah, we pay their
employees.
employee, right. The fee is in man-hours that we're spending doing it.
Right. And now we have a proposal from SM&P to actually, so we can eliminate and free up some of our employees to do other public work jobs.
Yeah, at this time of year, and with the consolidation into the Public Utilities Division, where we now have consolidated storm, sanitary, and water main, I literally have a person working full-time, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, doing nothing but utility locates at this time of year. Now, in the wintertime, that won't be the case. Obviously, utility locates and construction slow down, but as you can see on there, you know, we're spending a fair amount of time doing utility locates in-house.
And the $17.25 per ticket on the option 2 would be still paid by us?
That would be paid by us, correct?
And we'd be able to, how are we going to come up with a budget amount? Just use past historical data as to how many tickets requests we had?
Yeah, we know, we've got a good feel for historically how much construction, even in the last couple of years with the increase in construction, we've got a good feel for how many tickets we have. So we're pretty confident in, you know, in this estimate of what the annual cost is going to be.
My guess is we can adjust sometime in the future the building fees to absorb this cost so that the ultimate user of the service is actually paying for the benefit of it.
It's developers certainly, but it's also Mr. and Mrs. Smith planting a tree in their backyard. You know, they have to call Julie too, so.
Right. Okay, any questions on this? Mr. Mayor?
If they do make a mistake, are we indemnified by them? Is there insurance coverage on this?
Yes, there is.
Any other questions? I make a motion to approve, to award a utility locate contract with SM&P Utility Resources on a per-ticket basis at a rate of $17.25 per ticket, not to exceed. Gary, would this be a year-by-year contract?
Yes, I would like to enter this in initially as a one-year contract so we can kind of get a feel for how things are. And then I would come back to council if we feel that we're confident we could do a multi-year, but this certainly would be a one-year upfront.
And as with the garbage rates, if we do some kind of long-term, we'd be expecting some kind of discount for awarding a long-term contract.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to enter into a long-term rate right off the bat, or long-term contract right off the bat, not having any history with the company.
Right.
so.
There was a motion, I believe there was a second on the question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item is the, item number 6, report and recommendation for the streetlight installation, request for Station Drive. We had a, petition from some of the residents on Station Drive asking for additional streetlights. We've kind of determined from the staff memo that most of the outages are a result of streetlights owned by ComEd, correct?
The outages that were in the area were streetlights by ComEd, correct?
And have those been addressed yet by ComEd, or are they on the year 4 of the 7-year program?
ComEd certainly has been notified of them. I can't speak as of tonight if those have been addressed or not, but ComEd has been notified.
Staff's recommendation is not to install any additional streetlights. That's not my ward, so I'll defer to the alderman of that ward, Alderman Winger.
I've driven down Station Drive quite a few times, and one of the things that I did make a note of when I was down there recently is that there is a mature tree that's covering one of the lights, so it probably does prohibit some lighting. So I would be happy, and Alderman Shockey is also welcome to join me to work with the association, or Mr. Holman, you might want to make the call. I'm okay either way, to work with them to trim that tree and see if that improves the situation at all. And but if that doesn't improve the situation, and if the outages are corrected and it's still dark, etc., that that there's even the poles already in place. So putting a couple more lights, it's probably not going to be the extent of installing a whole new light pole, because the lights are actually attached to existing poles out there along that ComEd right-of-way. So it's something that should, working with the association, not help, and the outages being corrected, then I would want to look at that. But for right now, I'm okay with going back to the association and trying to work things out with the tree trimming.
And I believe it's a parkway tree, right? I mean, it's a.
You know what, I looked at it, it's not.
It's not, okay.
It's
Just a
on
large
the
canopy.
inside of the perimeter sidewalk, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then we'll contact the association, work with them to get that tree, basically bring to their attention that we've been contacted by numerous residents saying the lighting levels are low. We feel that the lighting levels are low due to the mature canopy of the tree. Association, can you please address that and see if you can trim that tree up and we'll leave it like that.
That sounds good.
Do we want a motion for the time being then to table this? To find out what we can do with the association?
That's your prerogative. I mean, right now, we're recommending not to proceed forward with a new street light. And, I can bring the issue back to council if the association tells us that they don't want to cooperate, but I'm anticipating. that won't
I'd
be
like
the
to make a
case.
motion to table then.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of the table? Opposed? Opposed. We'll table this to 6 years for when ComEd gets around to their next changing of the light bulbs. I don't think we should install any new lights until at least all the existing ones have been replaced by ComEd and that tree's been trimmed down. And then let's see what the area looks like. But we'll table it to a future meeting. Next item is the 2006 roadway program. This is the project for Iroquois Trail, Mount Clair, Murray. It's payment number 1. The project is moving along quite rapidly. I forgot what a hassle it is to have road construction in our ward. It's been so long. It's not pleasant. But I make a motion to approve pay request number 1 in the amount of $282,779.37. Is there a second? Second. On the question? All in favor say aye. Opposed? 1 opposition, motion passes. We've already addressed item number 8. Item number 9 is the report and recommendation for the disposal of a hot patcher machine or property. Make a motion to approve motion to direct the city council to adopt an ordinance for the disposal of personal property, the asphalt hot patcher owned by the city of Wooddale. Is there a second? On the question? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the gypsy moth update. I think this is verbal only.
Yes. We did, and I believe in one of your information packets in the last week or two, you did receive the report indicating that we were notified of the presence of gypsy moths up on School Street in the form of caterpillars at that time. The state, as you know, I'm sorry? At that time they were caterpillars. The state, as you know, was in earlier this spring to do sprayings over the city. They did 2 sprayings. One is to kind of attack them at the larval stage, and the second is at the caterpillar stage to try and keep them from reproducing. We did contact tree companies, private tree companies, and spraying services as soon as we were notified of the situation, and we're told kind of universally across the board that once they had gotten to that stage, it was too late to be spraying this year for those trees. We've been in contact with the state and are trying to secure some traps so we can better identify the area. The recommendation from the companies that we spoke with was to keep this in our minds and next spring go out there and do essentially the same type of sprayings that the state did this year in order to try and prevent the spread of them. But unfortunately for this year, there's not much more that can be done now that they're actually in the moth stage.
Alderman Ptolemy?
Yeah, I'd just kind of like to follow up, okay? Just so there's clarification, okay, the spraying that the state did this year was not in that area. About 2 years ago, the state came in and they did do the School Street area. In fact, they did it 2 years in a row. And then last year, there wasn't a problem, and the state even came out, or whoever they have came out and said, you don't need it, you don't need it. Well, it needed it, and it didn't get sprayed this year. So what ended up happening is literally the one house that's over there is they attacked the oak trees especially. So all these beautiful big oaks we have in the city. Well, anyway, what happened was at one point you could go out and he'd shake the tree. He'd get as many as 30, 35 of these things fall out of the tree. Now, if you go over to that area, I mean, there's just hundreds of these moths, okay, flying around the area all over in the tree. And that's what they do is they go up into the trees and they're just eating away at all the vegetation up there. School Street, for those of you that are familiar with it, is pretty well canopied with a lot of trees. I assure you that if we don't either get state help or, you know, some other kind of help next year, we do it ourselves. That area up there is going to be completely deforested, and that's no exaggeration. You can see what they've already done if you go up there. So it just kind of, it's unfortunate. And Gary, I did get another call on that. If we can get the traps, the sooner we can get them, the better, to put them out
Yeah,
there.
the traps will help us just to identify kind of a
Right.
boundary. As you mentioned, our first step is going to be to try and convince the state to come in and do it on their cost next year.
Agreed.
And if they won't do it with their cost, then it'll be a council decision and a budget decision, whether we would do it in-house. And I escaped, the cost escapes me, but I
It was
believe it was like,
$35,
$40 an acre or
$35 an
something,
acre.
which really didn't strike me as being that expensive considering it's aerial flights.
Right,
Um,
until you start putting the acres together.
Well, we would want to identify the acres through the traps, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, we're going to actively pursue it and do something for next year, so.
Okay.
That's for information only. Gary, I have 2 items that I didn't give you a heads up on. Can you give me an update on the detention basins on the down Wood Lane Court?
The last that I knew, both parties are saying that they've come to an agreement, and this be the developer and the adjacent property owner.
Right?
But we have yet to physically see a signed document. So they are moving towards a resolution. Our mosquito contractor has got that as a special site on his list, so he's continuing to monitor that. And the developer has a standing order that he is to be out there pumping down that pond, and I know that he hasn't been the greatest at that. In fact, I think I was down there last week after the rains, and I know he wasn't out there with his pumps, so.
Right. I still think we need to keep pressure on the developer and the homeowner, if this makes your settlement, if not, eventually we'll, an executive session, make a decision if we're going to intervene in, because again, it's a question of how long should all the residents around there suffer, because I've heard that there's a signed settlement agreement. I think it's going on about 3 weeks now, and that's not your fault, that's just between the parties, so. The other issue is the train station renovation. I've counted about 210 days, I'm sorry, Alderman Coles on the,
What about the retention pond on Wood Lane Court? That looks like a mess over there. What are they gonna do about that?
And that's all tied up in the same thing. That's the same, again, the developers.
Because I got
works.
people calling me about that retention pond. They're moaning and groaning about the dead water that's sitting in there for mosquitoes, and then you've let it grow full of weeds now. They haven't cut it down. I was there the other day, and it was a mess.
And I don't disagree with you, and that's a construction site that basically was left right now to sit until
That's-
they had.
That was Bennis's deal.
No, that was way beyond Menace. That was the developer actually working out there then, and the developer entering into a side agreement, which came back to bite him in the end, and that, the developer is the one who basically got the site to where it is today, and now has walked away, and then he'll be coming back presumably to finish it.
because of a court order, basically said you got to halt everything.
Not the one on Wood Lane Court.
No, it's all part of it.
We own that.
Well, but it was all part of the Ethan Woods development. I mean, I understand that we owned that, but we weren't the ones out there digging it and doing it. It was being done by the developer of that development.
All right. Okay, I'll tell them that the developer is the guy that's in fault then.
We, the city, didn't dig one shovel full of dirt
I know
out
that,
there, yeah.
but it's a mess.
I don't disagree that it's not a mess, and I think that's what we're saying. We acknowledge how long do the residents have to suffer waiting for that agreement to be
All right,
signed.
okay.
Gary, the other item I wanted an update on is the renovation of the train station.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a meeting tomorrow with the architect, but that's been pushed off till next week. I'm going to give you a full report then on Thursday of next week to tell you exactly where we're at, because I too, I have the same concerns you do, that we want to get the ball rolling here.
Right.
And so if you can wait till next Thursday, I'll give you a full report, because then we'll meet with you.
Because if this firm doesn't want to do it, we can go to the next one. We have their plan. We own their plan. We'll go to the next one to get it built.
I fully understand.
Okay, items for future meetings, water system backup wells and the IDOT MFT resolutions. Again, house cleaning for 1996 back to 2006. Any other items for Public Works? Honorable Mayor Johnson.
Streetscape met earlier tonight. We have 3 recommendations we'd like you to consider at the August 10th meeting. You want to know what they are? Banning ash trees and 2 changes on policy in the Parkway tree replacement program.
Sheriff Gary, if we can put those. Okay, any other items, for future meeting? Otherwise, make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
That's what I want to find, and that's why I called that meeting, was to light a fire under